I'm one of those guys that looked up to, the great generation of World War II. When I went to college, got involved with the ROTC program. Times were different in 1968. Even though there was protesting going on and so forth, at state colleges, all males, the first 2 year of college, were in the ROTC program, which kids today probably couldn't understand. So I got involved that way, got involved with a couple of ROTC programs, liked it, liked the people who was in it, saw an opportunity that if I could get through college, graduate, I would be commissioned as a second lieutenant. And so I did that. So went to Fort Benning, Georgia, which is finally called Benning School for Boys. Went to the infantry officer basic course, which was at that time, what was that? I think it was like a 10-week course because they were shooting lots of soldiers in the Army were going to be going downrange. So Fort Benning was a very crowded place then. And after that, was sent to Fort Ord as a training officer, worked on the basic training brigade for about 6 months. Got my orders to go overseas, en route to going overseas. Went to Panama for 2 weeks of jungle training, and then directly hopped overseas. When I was in the service, there were plenty of guys who'd gone and done their second tour, and some of the career people were on their third tours, much like, unfortunately, some of our Iraqi and Afghanistan vets now. So we had rumors, and we knew stories that people had told us what would happen. So I arrived there in August, which is probably the hottest time of the year there. And so it's true what they say, when that door opened to that airplane, you were just hit by a blast of hot, humid air. So it was pretty well organized. There wasn't any shocks as far as being shot at getting off the plane. That was all rumor controlled. But you got off the plane at Benoit, and you went to what they call the Rappel Depot, which is basically a replacement depot. And you stayed there for 2 or 3 days. Rosters came out every day telling people where you're going to be assigned. So I was assigned to the 4th Infantry Division, which is up in 2 Corps, which is north central part of Vietnam, up in the highlands out of Pleiku. So by the end of August 1969, I was in the 4th ID. They sent me to my battalion, which was the 1st to 12th Infantry, which was operating way up north, not far from Dak To, where they'd had some pretty difficult battles about a year and a half before. So my first assignment was to a rifle company at a company patrol base way out in the mountains in nowhere land, where we could actually see Cambodia from our patrol base. So that was my initiation.
What was your job? What were your responsibilities?
Second Lieutenant Infantry, typically you're a platoon leader. So when I arrived there, the guy I replaced had actually just left. And so I was assigned a table of organization equipment. At that time said I should have had 44 soldiers. I rarely had more than 30, 32 in the field. So when I got there, I was supposed to be in charge of these guys, and our job was to seek out the enemy if we could find them. And more often than not, at that time, the 4th ID covered more geography than I think any other division in Vietnam. So all the battalions were spread out on different bases, on different hilltops, and then the companies were further spread out. And so most of the time it was just me and my platoon walking through the jungle, going where we were told, looking for who we thought we were looking for. So pretty awesome responsibility. You look back now, because I was probably older than most guys in my platoon, because I was 23 and I had 4 years of college under my belt. And so most of my guys were draftees, or a lot of them had enlisted. And we had, by that time, I'm really struck today that we just did not have a lot of experienced NCOs left. They'd been casualties, or they were on second tours or third tours, and so technically I was supposed to have 4 qualified squad leaders and a platoon sergeant with me. And I had a platoon sergeant, but everybody else had been in country probably a year or less. So these young guys accepted a lot of responsibility early to get their job done.
Was it hard fighting an enemy that was far more used to the terrain and the environment than you were?
I don't know. I think my guys did pretty well to account for themselves, but you're correct. Most of these guys were either natives to the area, or they'd taken I don't know how long to walk down the Ho Chi Minh Trail to get into the area we were in. So their life skills in the jungle, I think, far exceeded ours. They were also smaller, and they didn't carry as much stuff as we did. So they were a different enemy to get involved with. So, but fortunately, I didn't run into any big, large contacts like a lot of people did. But we had some short firefights, and it's usually very quick and was over pretty quickly too. Well, there's always close calls. It's kind of like what you hear pilots say. You have hours and hours and hours of boredom spiked by absolute seconds of terror, because you are marching through the jungle. 3 months out of the year the heat is just unbearable. 3 months out of the year it's a monsoon and you're never dry, constantly being rained on. You're walking through terrain, up and down hills, through rivers, constantly going up and down a mountain, tired, exhausted, carrying all your gear. And then at the same time, you're always anticipating that you might run into someone who would do you harm. And so it became really an exhausting endeavor, I would say, because you'd move all day, set up at night, and then even at night you had to have security, or you'd set out ambush patrols. And so I don't think anybody got more than 3 or 4 hours sleep a night. And then you get up the next day and do it all over again. So it was pretty tough as far as that goes for folks, and truly infantry type guys like I was.
Were you hit?
No Purple Hearts here.
Was it difficult, first of all, commanding a large group, knowing that maybe back here in the United States, not everyone was in favor of what was going on, despite the fact that you guys were risking your lives every day and doing what you were told and serving your country? Was that ever a factor?
Not in my experience, and not with my folks. GIs gripe and bitch a lot, but that's their nature. If they're not, I would be worried. We knew that was going on. Because of the letters you got from home. A lot of guys had letter subscriptions from their little hometown newspapers. We would get that when mail would be brought out. So we knew what was in the headlines. We knew the political situation. Nixon was president when I was over there. Guys would talk about it, and they would complain and moan and groan, but the next morning they'd get up and we'd go out and do what we had to do. So it was, but a lot of them were looking forward to getting home, and they were going to, many of them I'm sure were going to join those protesters when they did go home. And but it was not really an issue for me.
Did the war change you? Were you different when you came home?
I think I've survived pretty well. I probably have a little PTSD, we all do, but I haven't had a claim in that direction. Different perspective on things, different perspective, a little more, came home a little more serious. A lot of us were a little more anxious when we got home. Loud noises bother us. Surprises bother us. But not my wife might disagree, but I don't think I had a seismic change. More mature, obviously. Saw a lot of things other people haven't seen, and but you know, I treasure those memories.